Welcome to Today in Prophecy Daily News in 15 minutes or less. It's news from the perspective of the Bible. Hey, I just returned from Vegas a little while ago. I was able to do a great podcast with Pastor Steve Wilburn. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. That was just a little while ago. And now we're still here trying to catch up. So I got a hat on because my hair's a mess. I hope you're okay with that. But we had a great conference out there in Las Vegas with the guys, man. It was just really just an over-the-top conference. Hey, let's get rolling. A lot to talk about. President Trump pardons about 1,500 January 6 defendants. Here's another article we're going to look at. If you're over 50, your government wants you dead. Putin is on the brink as Russian collapse is happening right now. Amazing to see what's happening. And IDF Chief Herzl Halevi to resign in March based on failures of October 7 in 2023. Well, let's get going. Much to talk about. First story, scores of career State Department diplomats resign before Trump's inauguration. The forced departures aimed at establishing a decisive break from the Biden administration will result in an exodus of decorated veterans of the Foreign Service, including John Bass, Undersecretary for Management and Acting Undersecretary for Political Affairs, Jeff Pyatt, the Assistant Secretary for Energy Resources, and others. And what it is basically they were given the ultimatum, you resign, there's a new chief, there's a new sheriff in town, or you will be resigned. So that's what's happening there. This is one of those times when you say, good riddance. Let's move forward. Also, and here's something else that I just so thankful for. President Trump pardons about 1,500 January 6 defendants, commutes sentences for 14 others. Trump has repeatedly referred to those charged as hostages who were unjustly prosecuted. I would say indeed they were political prisoners. Unbelievable. When you read the stories, you know the facts. I believe facts are going to start coming out now. We're going to see a whole lot of things. There were certain politicians that eliminated emails pertaining to this, eliminated all kinds of information. Things weren't allowed to be brought into court. Guess what? Things are going to be exposed. What's done in secret is going to be exposed. And I'm looking forward to this, but I'm so thankful. Families being reunited. Lies have been told about these people. Unbelievable. The FBI's involvement in all of it. I'm so glad that the facts are coming out on that. That's just great. Well, check this out. If you are over 50, your government wants you dead. The British government has a policy of ignoring the needs of the elderly, with doctors and nurses instructed to withhold treatment and let old people die to save hospital beds and cut costs. The cutoff age for resuscitation is often 55 or 50, with anyone over 60 considered old and a burden on society. And guess I won't be moving over to the UK. Elderly patients are frequently left in pain in soiled bedclothes and denied food or water, with many cases of neglect, abuse, and unfair treatment reported in hospitals and care homes. The only ism that no one cares about is ageism, Dr. Vernon Coleman writes. In Britain, it is now official government policy to ignore the needs of the elderly. This policy is common throughout the world. Doctors and nurses are told to let old people die and to withhold treatment which might save their lives. Hospital staff are told to deprive the elderly of food and water so that they die rather than take up hospital beds. Nursing home staff have even been given the right to sedate elderly patients without their knowledge. The only ism that no one cares about is ageism. Folks, we're looking at this and we can see the depravity of man. And we know that this goal, when you start looking at the goal of the globalists, again, the Bible talks about this global kingdom that's coming. You read about it in Daniel chapter 7. It's just fierce and destructive. You read about it in also Revelation chapter 6 with the rider on the white horse going about conquering and to conquer without using conventional weapons. But we see this system built. And we also know when you listen to the people, World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, you start listening to what they're really saying. They're really saying, we don't need any old people around here anymore. We need to get rid of them. You listen to someone like Yuval Noah Harari. He basically says, hey, how can we thin the herd would be the way they would, one of the things they would call us, thin the herd. So only the elite people at the top, they have the good life, and the people who are left here to still live, probably going to be the youngers. This is their plan. The younger people will be their servants. And also, when you look at Revelation chapter 6, what do you have? When you come to the third horse of the apocalypse, the black horse, you have a picture of the rich and the elite of certain people, not all rich people, but the elite are going to be at the top of the system. And we also know that a quarter of the people of the earth are killed. And there's power over a quarter of the people of the earth by the time you get to the fourth horse of the apocalypse. So you put the third horse and the fourth horse together. Before that, you have war. But what do you have with the third horse? You have economic catastrophe that hits the planet. There's famine that hits the planet. And at the top of it, the elite are not harmed. Do not touch the oil or the wine. The third horse, the black horse, is where John sees this vision. And it's with the rider on the horse has a pair of scales, and the scales are lopsided, meaning, hey, it goes all in the favor of the elite class, while there is mass suffering on the planet. It's a day's wage for a loaf of bread. And you start to look at this dynamic that is being produced right now. You have the serfs and you have those who are in charge of everything. You have the elite, and you can talk, you can listen to what they're saying all the time, and you realize this is the direction that they are going. So when you read something like this in the news, hey, if you're over 50, your government wants you dead, and you start to hear the things that that is coming out of these world organizations, including the UN, you start to realize what's really going on. And then every time we hear of a pandemic or something, you really ought to be alert, because what is the real goal of some of these things? And I can tell you, one of the real goals of some of these things that we are witnessing is a world without you, especially if you are a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. And if you're older, then you are a burden on society, you're a burden on the economic system. So as we see things developing the way the Bible says are going to develop, where you have this economic catastrophe, guess what one of the things is that's going to be sold to the people, and the people are being prepared for it right now. You have become a burden on society. We can't afford you anymore. We have economic catastrophe. Again, the Bible talks about that coming. And so we must be able to eliminate you. And we already look at places like the United States, Canada. You look at the Western world. You look at Japan. You look over there in Europe. What do you have? A declining population of the people who were the generations that were born in these countries. Hence, you have immigration. The only reason why you have any countries in the West that are growing is because of the mass illegal immigration that is taking place and the disruption to societies. But we have this, and there is a control factor, and they want to control the masses. And when you look at it with the famine of Revelation chapter 6 with the black horse, we're told, hey, you can't eat meat anymore. Meat is really bad for you. Cows are really bad for the environment. I mean, it's just totally absurd. It's an absolute lie. When you look what the Club of Rome wrote in their book, it was regarding the climate. I have it in my first book. I wish I had it with me right now. But in my first book, I have a quote in there from the Club of Rome's book. I think it was in 1991 or 1993. And basically what it said is man causes pollution, man causes different problems within the environment, therefore man is the enemy. In other words, their idea is, hey, let's make man the enemy. How do we do that? We say men, women, humanity, human beings are killing the planet. They're killing everything that's here. Therefore, we'll change the laws. We must change the behaviors of people. Man is the enemy. We'll eliminate the problem being man so we can save our planet for ourselves. And we hear things like coming out of the Vatican, and again coming out of people from World Health Organization, the leaders that be, and they're saying, hey, we need a population data based on the whole planet of 500 million. Well, how are you going to get down to 500 million when you have 8 billion people right now? You start eliminating a whole lot of people. So these are just the kind of things that we need to keep in mind when we hear about plans that they have. And over in UK, If you're over 50, you're too old for the system. Iran unveils, All Israel News says, Iran unveils video of underground naval base ahead of Trump's inauguration. The Iranian Ayatollah regime released footage on Saturday that it claims shows a covert Iranian subterranean naval base. The released images were reportedly taken in a secret location around 500 meters below the ground close to the Persian Gulf. The Iranian regime, which frequently and excessively boasts about its military capabilities, claim that the speedboats in the images are radar-evading Terg-class models that are capable of launching cruise missiles. I'm telling you, folks, things are really interesting, and they are heating up. Will it be when Trump gets going here over the next week, or the next few days, or the next week? As he gets going, what's going to happen with Iran? Is he going to partner with Israel and eliminate the nuclear threats that are constantly coming from Iran? It kind of makes you wonder, why did Netanyahu enter into this agreement to release the hostages? You know, it's horrible. I cannot imagine being a family member, a friend of any of the hostages that were over in Israel. So there's that joy in having them back home. But is there something else? Did Trump maybe promise, hey, Netanyahu, this is what we'll do. We will deal with the Iran problem. Let's go ahead. Let's do the hostage deal. Let's release these terrorists. I'll help you out. We don't know. Listen, I don't know all things. I wasn't part of the negotiations. I don't understand all of those things. But I do know that Israel still has a huge problem with Iran. They still have this enormous problem with the terrorists that need to be dealt with. But I praise God for the hostages, that they're going to be home and families are going to be reunited with their loved ones. And Putin, next story, is on the brink as Russian collapse is happening right now amid fears of a nuclear chaos. Russia is in the process of collapsing, and the world needs to prepare for potential nuclear chaos inside the country, a former U.S. senior military commander has said. Retired General Ben Hodges once served as commander of the U.S. Army in Europe, and he's been a prolific commentator on Russia's war in Ukraine, in which Vladimir Putin's forces have sustained catastrophic casualties during almost 3 years of fighting. According to Ukraine's military, over 800,000 Russians have been killed or injured, although estimates vary. The war in Ukraine is placing huge stress not just on Russia's human resources, but also on its economy. And in an interview with Ukrainian Review, Mr. Hodges suggested that Russia's days as a unified republic are numbered and that the country could break up into several smaller states. Well, this makes it rather interesting, because if Russia breaks up into several smaller states, does that fulfill some of the different names that you see where you can place them in the area of Russia and Turkey, for example? But Ezekiel chapter 38, you have these different names. Will it be Russia being broken up from what it is right now, but still attacking Israel, the Ezekiel 38 scenario? Very interesting as we watch what's developing in Russia. It looks like it is the end of Putin. It looks like it's very close to being the end of Putin. So fascinating things developing there. Also, and the Jerusalem Post reports, IDF Chief, Herzi Halevi, to resign in March, cites military failure on October 7. Halevi's resignation in keeping with promise to take responsibility for October 7, 2023. So watching these different things, I do believe you're going to see a lot more things like this are going to be coming from Israel. Some of the leaders, the people are going to demand answers. They're going to demand heads roll. How could this great failure have happened? So in this information that's been given, the report, you have Ben Sheet is also in here, and you have the IDF in here. Mossad says they were not part of that operation going at the immediate time that this happened, October 7 of 2023. But we're going to see a lot more coming out of there. Listen, God bless you guys. Look, I'm glad to be back here. But again, we had a great time in Vegas with the conference there. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Alex Newman will be my guest tomorrow. Bye.